Good afternoon, everybody. I am Dr. Giselle Tadros, pediatric physical therapist and oral motor specialist, and I am here today just waiting for them to join with the Nini Pacifier company, and I am so super excited. Hello, Courtney. Hello, Rushta. Hello, Tam.
Hi.
Hey guys, welcome. How's it going?
Going good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for joining me today. Like you guys, I had a chance to put on lipstick, which is so exciting.
I mean, that was a necessity. You know, you come on Instagram, we're like, it doesn't really matter what you do from the bottom down, but at least up here, we want to at least try to look presentable in this little square.
Yeah, I told Joy I forgot my earrings at home. I had to turn around and get them. I was like, it's half my outfit. When you're on Instagram, you know, and you only get
now you're not she's covering her ears.
Just my outfit. You know, I was like, I had to get my earrings. You know, it's amazing what you could do up here compared to what you have going on down here.
The beauty
exactly. And for me, because I'm treating patients, I've got like a mask on my face all the day, so I'm always like, I'll do my eye makeup, but nothing else gets any love these days.
Well, you look beautiful.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you look, yes, eyebrows on fleek. It's working great.
Well, thank you. I am so delighted to be able to talk to you guys today because I love mompreneurs and women that just like step out of their comfort zone, and I just love supporting you and just learning more about everything that you do and what motivated you and all that kind of stuff. So let's just dive right in to tell people who you guys are, how you guys started, and then I'll talk about why I love your product so much.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's easy for us because we like to talk.
Yeah, we don't mind talking about ourselves.
I'm Jane, and
I'm Joy.
And so we do makeup, Nini Co, and we have been entrepreneurs for years now, but in different industry on the contracting world. And about, 8 years ago was when I had a need for a product, a pacifier that I wasn't able to find on the market. I had a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and had for the first time a full breastfed baby. I had issues with breastfeeding with my first 2, and I wasn't going to put pressure on myself, but it really worked. And then I get home and I'm like, wow, this takes a lot of work, and
breastfeeding takes a lot of work.
And I was enjoying it for sure, but then it's time consuming. And as much as I was enjoying it, I was realizing that when he was non-nutritive sucking, I was like, okay, clearly he's not hungry. He's looking to be pacified. There's got to be a pacifier on the market for breastfed babies that is just shaped different, feels different, because he just wouldn't take, the conventional, traditional pacifier. And it sent us on a search that we then, as entrepreneurs, and the more we started diving into it, there's a faith journey behind it. And we've really had a passion for helping moms and babies, and just really felt it laid on our hearts to be like, I think we're supposed to do this.
Well, no, we didn't feel like we were supposed to do this. She felt like she was supposed to do this, and then was like, but I need you to do it with me. And I was like, we worked in heating and cooling. Let's just say that. Okay, we worked in heating and cooling. It's very random, but our dad did it, and then we took over the family business. We did not enjoy our jobs, but at the same time, we were in a business, and she comes to me like, we need to invent a pacifier. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, we're not inventors like any of these things, but we tend to complement each other in business. And she was able to really convince me, and the more and more we talked about it, I was like, you know what? I had my second child at the time, but my breastfeeding journey was different than hers. And my daughter was taking a different pacifier, and it was, working fine. I didn't understand at the time, all the different components. So we went on the journey to start working to create it 8 years ago. And when Jane first had her husband, he has a graphic design background. She's like, can you just get it out of my head and onto paper? That initial drawing is pretty much exactly what the pacifier looks like even today, from that very first idea in her head.
Yeah, and honestly, because I was able to breastfeed my youngest for 14 months. So I guess you can call it field research, to where I was just watching it, and I'm seeing how how your nipple collapse and the motion he'd move. And I was just like, I'm I don't understand why pacifiers start off real short, you know, on the circumference. Like it should be wider, and they like draw it in. And so from there, it was like, okay, silicone is an industry standard. You know, other pacifiers have gotten it right. No reason to reinvent the wheel. Silicone is a great, you know, material to use. Mm-hmm. So Joy found us a prototyping company, and we had to find out, first off, like, crush our dreams, let us know, can silicone do what we want it to do? Can we have it move and feel like skin?
Can it be this thin and can it be soft? Can silicone even achieve that? Because it had never been done.
Yeah.
And then it just so happened that the owner of the prototyping company, the plastics engineer, his wife had just had a baby and was currently breastfeeding. This is how, you know, this is how serendipitous this is. And he was like, I know exactly what you're saying. I know I can do this. And sure enough, that first prototype all those years ago was the blueprint for all of our work into mass manufacturing and getting our patent and everything. That was what it took. He got it right. It was really actually pretty miraculous.
That's so cool.
And in the same time, we also, our dad actually, because, you know, he was the entrepreneur and his father was an entrepreneur. So we're saying it's you know, goes back in couple generations in our family. Mm-hmm. And he said, talk to a lawyer, make sure that somebody doesn't own the intellectual property. So we're like, okay, great. Because if silicone can do what we want it to do and nobody owns the rights to it, then this idea that comes across as crazy, I'll know is actually a purpose-driven thing that we just got to do it. And so we were able to talk to a woman who essentially let us know that there was room to get a patent on it if we brought her the product. So now we were faced with get a product, figure out what it's made by, then she'd be willing to take it to us to see if we can get a utility patent on it. Which, by the way, we got rejected by the U.S. Patent Attorney's Office over 4 times. Mm-hmm.
So when we had to go, I will honestly say, I think one day we'll probably also like write a book on creating a product, because when you really like believe in your heart that something is meant to be, and, you know, every time you get a door shut, you know, we didn't have the money to do it. You know, this was something where we maybe put one part of the process on a credit card, or we'd get a tax return and use all of our tax return monies and be like,
amazing destiny helpers along the way. There's
we have, but a lot of it too, I'm not discounting other people, but what I'm saying is that for us, we'd be like, okay, we've got $3,000 to do this. All right, let's make this happen. And every time we did it, we didn't know what was gonna happen on the other end, but we just kept pursuing it because we really truly felt that it was meant to be.
And people were telling us like, you should get a test group and you should get a lot of leads, and we were thinking, that's
we can't afford
expensive.
A test group.
I think we're just gonna go ahead and make it. And we had the prototype, and there were, you know, after we got it tested through consumer product testing to make sure that it was safe to use, you know, we did go through consumer product testing. Then we would reach out because we were in an age bracket to where a lot of our friends were having babies and newborns. Right. And we thought, hey, if 4 or 5 babies like it, you know,
and it's not a total bust.
Yeah, it'd be different if 0 out of 4 liked it. But if we can get it to see that they can hold it in their mouth, they're sucking on it, it presented to look the similar way as breastfeeding, we were like,
well, maybe we're onto something.
And honestly, and like I said, I really would be amiss not to mention, I really do feel it was laid on our heart, and I felt, you know, a call to action and a purpose behind it as well. So that was a big driving force to be able to kind of go out in faith rather than say take a lot of gambles. You know, we really went out on a lot of faith in this journey.
For sure.
Right. Well, I have to tell you that I am so grateful that you guys did, because suck training for me, I'm a pediatric physical therapist, oral motor specialist. I see a lot of babies with issues with learning how to suck. So it's not necessarily why you created the product, but it's exactly what I needed to help me help these babies. And so I'm getting these babies who can't suck correctly, and we're trying to get them to suck. Well, some of them learn to suck on my finger, learn to suck on a bottle, but it's not translating to be able to get proper breastfeeding. And so, you know, I'm a physical therapist. I can teach like people who have had strokes how to walk again. So to me, it was like this big stumbling block. Like, why can't I get these babies to suck? And, you know, it comes down to basic neuroplasticity and, you know, I'm a geek, but science stuff, right? Muscle memory. Like, does the baby have the proper anatomy to be able to suck? If not, we fix it. And does the baby have the proper muscle memory? So, you know, just like you go to the gym and you learn how to squat correctly, you don't do it the first few times, but we teach you how to do it over time, and then your brain gets it and you don't need those cues so much anymore. And so your passy is exactly what I needed to help babies develop that muscle memory, to get the pattern, the connection between the brain and the muscle, because if they go in and chomp, it squeezes and it doesn't, they are not able to suction onto it. They have to go in with the proper pattern, the way, you know, sucking was designed to happen in order to suck on this.
That's amazing. Yeah, we were going to say that at the same
sorry.
time. We were blown away.
That we think that is extraordinary.
Yeah, we do. Because, you know, so many times along our journey, people would say, you know, well, what are your credentials? It's like, well, we were 2 breastfeeding moms and we needed some and it didn't exist. So we're like, we know it needs to happen. So it's just so nice.
We wanted to put an areola and a nipple on the base of a pacifier. I mean, that just kind of shows our mom brain. You know?
It's just as simple as
or like we need an areola and a nipple, and it's a pull,
so the baby can manipulate it the way they do.
In theory. But yeah, I mean, it's
so that's
been
phenomenal.
A blessing to hear that. It really has.
Absolutely. The other thing too, and I love that you spent so much time and energy to make this silicone soft, because the other problem that we struggle with in the therapy world is compensation. So any of the other passies, I don't have any in my office because that's where I am now, and I'm not a fan. I'm a fan of very few pacifiers, actually, because of the shape and the design, and because of what they can accomplish in a baby or what they teach a baby. So a lot of passies will actually stay in a baby's mouth because of compensation, meaning a baby can use something other than the proper sucking technique to keep it in their mouth.
Sure.
This you can't. If you're not that tongue around and suctioning and elevating up, it's popping out. It's not going to stay in. It's going to collapse. It's not going to work. And so it helps to really stop that compensation. So 2 things have to happen. They have to stop compensating and they have to learn the proper way to suck. And this thing accomplishes both. I used to use another pacifier where I could get one and not the other. And so this, I can get both. And that's why it's great. I have all my
That is so cool.
That is
using it, and like from the get-go, if I get so many DMs when I recommend it, and they say my baby can't suck on this, and I'm like, I know.
So we get those, you know, as the company owners, and what we're trying to start doing is, you know, that's why I'm so glad we're having a talk with, you know, such great professionals like yourself, because then we can start saying, you know, it's not. We could say, hey, maybe there's some sort of an issue. Maybe that's why the baby can't keep it in their mouth. But, you know, from a professional perspective, you know, you are in that realm in which you can speak to that. So that's why it'll be great to have videos like this for people to refer back to say, okay, maybe if they're not able to hold it in their mouth, maybe there is something a little more going on that I should be paying attention to.
Right. Exactly. And, you know, sometimes that can be the first sign, you know. The other thing I love, babies who have either tongue ties or a lot of that compensation because they're chomping with their jaws, they cannot get their mouth open wide enough to make it around this. And like you said, this is like no bigger than the circumference of an areola. And so it's great to even just be able to demonstrate to parents, like, this is just the shape of an areola. They have to be able to at least open to get their mouth around it or close to around it. And so that's what we work towards. So sometimes I use this in therapy just to get a baby to learn to open wide. And I'm gonna create a video with you guys at some point where we actually like are showing parents how to do that. So for babies that don't know how to suck on it, let's show you a couple tricks of how to be able to do this. And then if you do need therapy, then you could go there. But let's try and do it, you know, before needing that.
Love that.
My big thing, you know, I always say I want kids out of therapy. I don't want to be treating them for a long time. I want you in, I teach you what to do, and bye-bye, you know, happy breastfeeding with mama.
Exactly. Yeah,
well,
that is.
And the great thing about it, because when we get those, we do have a tips for success. But I know, like for me, videos will work a lot better, you know, because, you know, just to get that quick example to allow them to see it, or, okay, try putting your finger in, but to have a professional to help and
with the live baby and to be showing, I think it gives a lot of perspective.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it more offline, but I would love to show it with a baby that has trouble, and then you guys can show it with a baby who does it super easily, and then that way we can compare and contrast, and you know, we'll figure it out. We'll do something that can help other mamas out there.
And that's what it comes down to. It's helping moms, because, you know, when we were up late, and we understand how important it is, self-care for moms.
Oh my gosh.
And it's one of the hardest things that we do, is allow ourselves the opportunity to care for ourselves, or to recognize, hey, I could use a little help. So for Joy and I, part of the mission is, if there's anything that we can do to help a mom say, this just helped my baby soothe and take a nap, and I was able to get a shower in, or my, you know, significant other was able to help, or, you know, or
grandma was able, and I could go to the grocery store by myself for the first time. Like, when we get messages like that, they mean the world to us. So, because people will respond and say, I don't know if you care, but I just, because, you know, they'll reach out to say, I had problems with the latch, and then we try to give some information to help. But then with the ones who will reach back out and say, I don't know if you care or not, but I just want to let you know it's working now. Like, we call each other on the phone after hours and be like, oh my gosh, I got the best testimonial, or we snapshot and we share it with each other, because those stories mean so much to us. Like, that 8-year journey of just rejection after rejection to finally get to the place that we had a product that we could release to the world in March of 2021. So we haven't been in business a full year. March 1st will be 1 year. And we've sent over 30,000 orders out around the world. And we don't sell on any other platform than our website. Of course, you know, we'll advertise on social media, but it means so much to us to know that this product is actually working, helping people. Like, it's beyond our dreams.
That's so cool. I love that. So we have a couple comments. I do want to encourage, if anyone has questions, just put them in the question box below and we'll try and get through them. Milk Diva wrote, 2 of my favorite infant feeding advocates. We love you too. Thank you so much for loving all of the stuff we put out, because really you also just want to help moms out there. Phoenix and the girls, where did it go? I saw it. I was meant to see this. This has been so heavy on my heart, and we love our Nini, but I definitely think this proves my daughter's tie issues. So I just want to say, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a tongue tie. It just means that the tongue is having trouble doing its job correctly. It does not necessarily mean a tie, but it may be worth some kind of an oral evaluation by somebody who is knowledgeable and can help.
So it could be it could purely be a functional issue that just needs to help be resolved.
A little bit of training.
Yeah.
Exactly. It could also be that they were using a different pacifier, so their muscle memory just isn't the right plan, and we just have to reconfigure it a little bit, break that compensation, teach the new one, and then you're good to go. You know, but parents don't always know. They think you're going to stick it in and it works. So.
Yeah, and it's much wish that's how it works.
And it works like that for some people,
for
but
some
not
it
for a
does.
lot.
But yeah, we honestly wish that was everybody's story, for sure. But
right, but I'm happy that it's not.
Yeah.
Because it helps me through.
Yeah.
All right, Milk Diva says showers, naps, and food are essentials to long-term breastfeeding success. Absolutely.
I think
all right.
I mean, that sounds amazing to me. I mean, I'm not breastfeeding, but showers, what do we say? Showers.
Well, I am still breastfeeding my toddler, and I will say, showers, naps, those are essential.
For all moms, all ladies, you know, to get that in, for sure.
So Bay Etta says, my daughter had a phasic bite with another brand of Passy, and the Nini has totally changed her breastfeeding journey. No more pain for mama now. Yay!
Oh my God.
That's amazing. What a great testimonial. Screenshot that, girls.
Thank you for sharing.
Can you speak why so many Mayos and SLPs demonize pacifiers? I think that is such a great idea, and I'm going to put a post up about this week if I actually get time. But I think pacifiers in general are demonized. I don't necessarily advocate to use it because it does interfere with speech and feeding and proper sounds and all that stuff down the line. What I use it for is specifically like the suck training. I use it for a purpose. We use it for the non-nutritive sucking. Some of these babies are very riled up, and like you said, they want to just suck at the breast, so this gives them an option where they can suck and pacify outside of mama. And if you're using it for a finite period of time, and you guys might not like this, but my recommendation is up to 6 months.
Sure.
And after 6 months you can start to decrease its use, where they're not using it all the time for all sleep or whatever it is, but just decrease their reliance on it.
Yeah.
Then you're okay, and you're not setting them up for any kind of failure. What happens is that they start getting in the way when the teeth are coming out and when they're supposed to be speaking, but they're sucking on this pacifier, and it gets in the way of development. And that's why trying to prevent the habit in the beginning is sort of easier than trying to wean them off the habit. And I think that that's why they get a little bit of a bad rap.
And we're glad that you
Jane,
brought that up because
we don't mind that at all.
I'm a believer in it. And even to the point, since we're so new, it's kind of hard, but we're almost coining the term that we're a soother more than a pacifier, right? Mm-hmm. Because our objective is to help the mother who's needing a soothing moment, the car rides, if you're taking nap time or on the walk with the dog and they're in the carrier, or you need just a couple minutes while you're getting yourself together. Like, we like to be a support or a soother, more than really saying a conventional pacifier that, like, because our product, you won't be able to have your baby walking around playing and that's where sometimes, you
playing and sucking. Yeah. Like,
it falls out and you're like, no, yeah, you want it to do that, because after they're done soothing, we're not trying to develop habits down there as much as, once again, we're here to support babies and moms through those months, and we're not saying that if you're using our product past 6 months, I mean, of course, we don't judge, there's no mom, shaming there at all. But it's kind of just one of those things, we really just want to be more of a soother, supporter, and when it's all said and done.
I love that. Cool. So Whitney says, my newborn has a hard time keeping it in his mouth. Where do I start to help him? What are the tips that you guys usually provide to people when you get those questions?
Yeah, so one of the first things we would say is, we especially find this to be the case usually with younger babies, because their jaws and their oral motor is not as strong yet. And it takes a good suck to be able to keep that in their mouth. So what we usually start to try to say is to take that pointer finger and put it in the center of the pacifier. Yep, to put your finger kind of in there and guide it in. You don't want to like stick it all the way in or like try to gag them. But what typically you'd also learn from a lactation professional is when you're teaching your baby to get a nice wide latch when they're breastfeeding, is to kind of stroke it down the nose.
Right. And
that stimulates it stimulates them to want to open their mouth, and then kind of let it go in there. And as your fingers on the inside, make sure, of course, that the pacifier is above the tongue, right? So it's going to go in that way, and then seeing if your baby then is able to then get that tongue under there, so then they can start getting that suction going. Because like you mentioned, Dr. Giselle, that it has to be like that with that suction in order for the pacifier to stay in. So even if you can get them to start training just the movement to get down initially, they've got that good suction around. Usually their top lip is flanged around the top, the bottom lip is flanged around the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfect every time, but you just want it to be open and around. Once they get it, then maybe try to start removing your finger. And it might just take that training initially, and maybe you're holding it in there for a while and they're sucking to soothe. And then ultimately, as they get more strength, then we would believe in what we typically hear is that now the baby can keep it in there on their own, because they gain strength pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would definitely add that there's, like you said, there's accepting it and then there's keeping it going. And there's sort of two separate things with two separate mechanisms where the tongue and the mouth have to do sort of separate things. So getting it in is usually the harder part initially when they're little and they have a teeny itty bitty mouth. And then keeping it in, because they don't have that strength so much, is that second barrier that you have to work through. But those are all great tips. I love that.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that yeah. So that works
Good
out
job,
good. We're
Joelle.
telling them, yep, not street leading anybody astray.
Demo 83 is asking, how soon do you introduce the Nini to your baby?
So there's going to be the professional answer to that. You know, I know that generally what we typically hear is that ideally, the reason why you hear a lot of professionals, and correct me if I'm wrong, but why it's usually recommended to wait for pacifier introduction. You know, you hear a lot of things about nipple confusion, which maybe kind of gets a little misconstrued, but the main objective is you want to make sure you have a good milk supply established, because you don't want to be introducing a pacifier and whenever the baby's crying, you know, they're getting the pacifier. But ultimately your baby may be hungry, and those hunger cues are really having to be established.
It was Dr. Naomi that helped.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It sure
Dr.
was.
Naomi helped and gave us some great
Yeah.
knowledge on that about
Milk
the first
diva.
couple of days and how important it is to decide, or how your body is figuring out its milk supply in those first couple of days. So if you're wanting to breastfeed, allowing those days for your milk to come down and really fall into line, because we do not, you know, want to get in the way of nature on that, you know, and then, you know, giving it some time to then introduce it. We've heard 2 weeks. We've heard,
Some people take them to the hospital.
Yeah,
I mean, if you feel like it's not an issue, but you want it from the beginning, we do have some people that do that because they're like, hey, this is my 4th baby, my 5th baby. I know how, you know, it works for me. And I gave it to them from day 1. I didn't have any issues. So,
or similar to how they give the traditional pacifier in the hospital, to where they'll say, okay, we did the circumcision, or they just had this, to where they'll say, well, I'd rather give them this pacifier than that one, just for the simple soothing. So from Nini Co's point of view, once again, we support moms. So it's like, if you feel you needed it on your first day, we support you on that. If you wanted to wait 2 weeks to 6 months, you can still find that we support you in that as well.
sure.
Yeah, I like that answer. And I think that you guys can appreciate this. I've been saying it for a long time as well. But like, one of the important things that I love to really advocate and encourage moms to learn early postpartum is to listen to that intuition that they have. We all have this like God-given intuition, and we know what's right to do for our kid. It's a gift that we were given. Our spouses don't have them.
Love
we
that.
have them. And so I don't have a right answer for you, but you do. Like, you have to figure out what that is, because I can give you my professional recommendation, but honestly, that's all it is. It's a professional recommendation that I read in a textbook.
Yes.
And that's not always right, that I found. You know, I've been doing this for 21 years and it's not always right. So I think that if a mom and me can together, you know, a lot of times I'm saying, what do you think? Well, how do they respond? You know better, you know?
Yeah.
And then we troubleshoot what that might mean. But really just empowering a mama to listen to her baby and look at her baby. Some kids don't need sleep training and they're fine. Some kids don't need this, don't need that. Like, it's not a recipe that we follow. You can't learn it in a textbook. And it took me 3 kids to figure that out.
Isn't that the truth? And they're all different too.
Yeah.
And we can find that as well. Now, what do you say, one of the questions, and while we have you here, maybe you can answer this, which would be helpful for the audience. Sometimes we get people that ask us questions about palate, right? So there are babies that have maybe high palate, or there's these things where they're like, pacifiers, they just don't stay in their mouths. And then they say, what do you say about that fact? And I know Naomi had also mentioned that something, and I don't know, maybe you can say about how our pacifier, people who haven't tried it or seen it, how it doesn't have like a rigid, like set shape. So what do you think about palettes and pacifiers?
So I have to give you my geeky answer first. Okay, so bone in the first year of life is soft. It's not hard bone the way that ours is now. So, and that allows a baby to go through the birth canal and like allow the brain for a lot of expansion in that first year of life. So the skull is actually made of like a bunch of different puzzle pieces that expand as the brain expands. One of those bones is inside the mouth, and the top of it is what we call the palate. Okay, so that palate should over time go from being high to broad and narrow. So instead of a V shape, it's more of like a wide U shape, where it's flat on the top. The floor of the or that roof, the palate, is actually the floor of the mouth, the nose, and the nasal cavity. So you want it to come down. It comes down by that forming. So by the breast touching up there, anything that's pressing up in there and that negative pressure that pulls is going to help bring it down. It's a bit of a complicated concept, but that's basically what happens, is that negative pressure pulls and it flattens that bone. Because it's soft, more like pottery than bone, it can shape in that first year of life, but more so in those first 6 months of life. So if a baby has a high palate, there is an opportunity for it to change by the tongue going up there, by other things going up there, and that negative pressure pulling it down. Every time you swallow, if you think about that, that's negative pressure that like pulls. And so that's what it is that we're going for that palate to come down. And that's what happens in normal development. So you really only have a short window of opportunity for it to change on its own, after which the dentists take over and use appliances to force it to widen. So you'll hear of palate expanders and this and that in the kids when their teeth are coming in and there's crowding, because it didn't widen enough. There's not enough room for all the teeth. And now I forget your question.
No, and so that was it. And so, no, I get it, because that's a really good explanation. But that there's some things that, because it aids to the point, like with the palate starting out being as soft as it is and being more pliable or malleable, it's going to form, that I guess either like thumb sucking or certain pacifiers may indeed, especially with prolonged repetitive use, may indeed start to misalign the palate as a result.
Right. So that palate can change. So the softness of the Nini pacifier is soft enough that it's like a breast. So it'll actually go up and conform to the shape, rather than make it, higher. Like a thumb is hard bone under there, so it's going to press up and make it higher.
Yeah, that's what I really wanted to say, is that basically people who will say, oh, well, my baby has this, shaped palate. Well, the hopefully the goal is that it will, when it pulls in, it's going to fill in whatever, it's going to fill the space. And that way, like you said, it should help reinforce good palate development. So I feel like that's just another added bonus.
Yeah, it will definitely, as your product has longer life, we'll be able to actually have true testament to that. Sure. For now, we see it sounds from a theoretical basis that would be the case. It's designed to feel like a breast, and so you would hope that it's going to conform the same way that it does. So yeah, I think that time will definitely tell.
Yeah, it sure will. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Susie Yee says, I had my first baby last year and both had lip and tongue tie for 4 months. I was very devastated and I knew something was wrong. My baby is now 1.5 and exclusively breastfeeding. Trust your gut, mama. Yes, exactly. That's what I want to say. Trust your gut. You know best.
Yes.
Would love to know timeline for a bottle. I think it would be so beneficial for my tongue tie release baby.
So we can talk about that. Or does she want to know timeline for
Nini Co bottle,
or just in general, just using a bottle?
Do you have a bottle?
No, that's coming.
Oh, okay.
Something we're really excited to
But
start.
I didn't know if she meant like her baby had the tongue release and she's been incorporating a bottle. I don't know if she's talking about going exclusively into breastfeeding, that timeline, or.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure. I mean, I would have 100 more questions to ask before I could really answer this question. Some babies have bottles right away. Some have trouble having a bottle. So I'm not exactly sure. But I think maybe she means just like how we talked about to wait with the passy a couple of weeks before you introduce a bottle to avoid nipple confusion. I don't know. If you're still here, be more specific.
Yeah, and then we can answer that. But as far as Nini Co coming out with a bottle to kind of help to hopefully make that transition smoother, that is goals for 2022. So
we're
this
in
year,
the concept phase of it. So yeah, and that's the thing. As much as we wish you could just do like a finger snap and say,
Here's our bottle.
There's a lot that goes in because, not to get too much into it, but FDA regulations, anytime that you're passing a liquid through, or food that's going through your product, it has to go through FDA regulations. So that'll be new testing we'll have to do. And of course, but we have some pretty great people who have some great technology we want to talk to and maybe partner up and have not only a great nipple top for a bottle, but then have an awesome technology for the
anti-colic, minimal parts type of the rest of the bottle to make it simple for moms to utilize, but also to help reinforce, limited gas and all those things that get associated with good bottle flow. But like she mentioned, the trick is going to be when you have liquid passing through, it's different than when a baby is just sucking on it when there's actually a hole. So it's still we're trying to find something that's going to still reinforce that same suction, but at the same time will allow the baby to experience bottle feeding that hopefully will mimic similar style to how breastfeeding is, right? Like there's not going to be multiple flows, because a woman's breast is really the slow flow is really going to be, kind of that constant having to work. So we're going to work at trying to make it as, I guess you could say, transitional from the pacifier to the bottle as possible to hopefully assist with any breastfeeding journeys and keeping all that together.
That's super cool. I can't wait.
Yeah, we're excited.
So Maddie Jonke says, any tips on getting baby to take the whole Nini pacifier in his mouth? He clamps down and it squishes. So if you don't mind, that's the whole purpose of it, actually. I mean, squishing it, you don't want him to clamp down. You really want him to learn how to suck. Try to keep your finger in it. Go back and listen to the live a little earlier when Joy was talking about her little tips and techniques. And I think that will help. And don't expect them to get it on one try. Repetition is key. So practice, practice, practice is really going to help. And I just want to say just quickly that I actually have a suck training course that I have on my Instagram. It basically talks all about all my secrets of how I use it, how I get babies to suck, and it's pretty inexpensive so that most parents can have access to it. And it just shows like basically all the things that I do here in therapy to get the baby to learn to suck, not just with the pacifier, but like all the different ways how it should look, the most effective tools to help with suck training and feeding, whether it's nursing or bottle feeding, recommended exercises, that kind of stuff. So have a look because that could also potentially be helpful. All right, let's see. Is it okay for naps and bedtime 6 months plus from a PT standpoint? So you guys can talk a little bit about this, but I want to say that you designed it so it doesn't really stay in during naps, correct?
That's right.
Enough to soothe them to sleep, but like you said, in theory, once the baby has finally gone to sleep, you get that nice where it pops out and sometimes you see the tongue still resting at the top and you get that aha moment where you can finally go have that cup of coffee or get your shower,
or go to sleep yourself,
or take a nap, but no. So we would say that a lot of what we see our audience who enjoys and uses it is for that time to help in the soothing. Because sometimes what we've heard, and I know it happened to me with my baby, they're so tired and they want to go to sleep. They're latching on, your milk's coming down. They're getting frustrated that they're getting milk because they're like, I'm not wanting this,
I just want to organize.
I'm trying to organize and that's kind of the great time to say, okay, Nini might come in and put the breasts away, for that.
We do find the majority of our users use it 6 months plus. Like they minimize the use, right? Because now the baby's getting more active. They're wanting to play, be more in their environment. So they're not really using it throughout the day for purposes so much as literally they use it. Maybe it's even just, hey, they were breastfeeding and, now they want to use the pacifier so they can lay the baby down. By the time the baby drifts off to sleep, it pops out. So a lot of our moms use it.
Yeah, and I have to say to you that I'm okay with it. I want the tongue to be suctioned to the roof of the mouth while they're sleeping. because that, again, it helps with that palate formation and just the craniofacial development in general. So if it's not in there when they're sleeping, I'm very happy. And also as a PT, I want kids to learn how to self-soothe. And so I think that, as you said, sucking is a basic instinct. It's very organizing and calming for a baby, and it's important to do when they're fussy to help bring them down out of that like fight or flight mode. And so if you're using it for the skills to help reinforce what natural normal development is, I have no problem with using it beyond 6 months.
Okay, very cool.
Nini is my last hope, but I am struggling to get him to take it. It squishes because he clamps down on it. Definitely have a look and see if some of those tips help you. And if not, maybe look, consider maybe getting an evaluation as to why it is that he's having trouble.
And you can also email us at info@ninico.com. We have additional tips that we can send out besides the one that we include in the packaging. So we would love to send you those additional tips as well. So
yeah, info@ninico.com. You can definitely reach out to us. Jane and I respond to all the messages, and we love to help moms as much as we can.
Awesome. Let's see. Where do we recommend parents order this pacifier? What a great question. I think you had mentioned it earlier. You guys only sell on your own website, which I love. I will provide the link down below.
Dr. Giselle being she's an affiliate with Nini Co. So if you use her code, it will also give you 10% off your first order. So that's a good way to actually also try it out.
Cool. So I'll post everything when we're done here, the link to your website, my code to give them a discount, and then we will pick a winner from somebody who's on this live. So when I post it, go ahead and comment on the live and we'll pick someone from the comments.
You can't see this side of our office, which is full of boxes of inventory. So she's rummaging through there and grabbing the stuff that we're excited to be able to offer. So she said that she's going to run up to her fulfillment center. So if there's any more questions in the meantime, while she's grabbing that.
So I have a confession. I didn't realize you guys were sisters until you started talking today. So yeah.
Oh yes, no, for sure. She is my older sister by 2 years. I like to add that.
Yeah, you're only saying that because she's not in the room.
Right, exactly. By the way, Joy is my older sister. No, but and like she said, we've been in business together. We've done business building together to really stay deeply connected, and we're actually really enjoying this journey this time around.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say it takes work when you work with your sibling.
Yeah,
I will tell you that. But we do love it, and we're best friends.
Yay!
I love that.
Okay, so I'm a little bit out of breath, so I'm gonna try to talk normal. First thing is, it's the super cute hat. See this little hat? So either in the gray or in the off-white, but these are made by our friend Brooke over at Be Happy. She hand knits all these hats, which is so cute. So these are in 3 to 6 month size. Yeah, I already said that part. But then as far as, but it kind of stretches. So if the baby's head might be a little larger or whatever, they're so cute. They'll fit. It will also come with a pacifier holder. So it'll either be in this chutney color, which, let me just take it out so you can see it. We love these particular pacifier holders because they're 100% silicone, designed in Miami, Florida. So they're American designed as well. And they just go over the diaper bag like this. What's nice is it's also nice and large on the inside and can fit like 2 pacifiers and a clip in it, right? So it's nice size. So it'll either be in this chutney color, or you can get it in the natural color, which is kind of like a creamy white.
Yeah, your colors are all so cute.
Thank you so much. So you get a hat, a pacifier holder, a pacifier clip, which is either in the frosty gray or and this is a Canadian company, a woman-owned Canadian company from Glitter and Spice, or in the coconut, which is the white, so the gray or the white clip. And then finally, you will get 3 Nini Co pacifiers, which will either be our 3 newest shades, which are in the sweet sand. So this is our most popular color. It's like a tan, very, monochromatic
what I would
color.
like to say about this color is we are getting down to limited quantity on these. So if anybody is watching this and you're really liking the sand, it might be a while. We're waiting on manufacturing to get us some more. So this is the color I wouldn't procrastinate on.
It's definitely the most popular color.
Yeah.
It's so cute. I won't ask for it because
yeah, it's like getting down to the slim.
I have the original.
Oh yes, that's our signature color. That mint green is very near and dear to our hearts. So these three colors will come together. This is our OG most popular color. So this is our gracious gray. That this one is so like the first. It's so loved. And then this is our noble navy, which is another like newer color. So it's either these three in assortment, or you get the noble navy and the sweet sand with our perfectly plum, which is like a Pantone that we worked hard to design. It's kind of like a muted color. Jewel tone, but a really pretty purple. So yeah, you get 3 pacifiers, a clip, a pacifier holder, and a hat. And
so exciting. Thank you so much for being so generous and for being here. I love you, ladies. I love your product. I can't wait to see what else you have coming down the pipe and just working together.
It's been a blast.
Yes, we appreciate it very much.
It has been. Thank you so much, and we will see you guys soon. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.